Hello YouTube. In this video I want to talk with you about a subject that is quite niche but that I've been thinking about a lot, and I want to share and see if people agree with me. So for the people who don't know what the numbers in the title are, 1, 2, 3, 4 refer to the number of plates on the bar, and it's supposed to be a standard to hit, and if you manage to hit that standard, then you are considered to not be a novice anymore, or rather, you have graduated from being a noob. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is 1 plate overhead press, 2 plates bench, 3 plates squats, 4 plates deadlifts. And it's crafted like this because it is the understanding that the lifts will be growing at a different rate because of the number of muscles that are involved in the lift. So for example, an overhead press is going to involve the muscle of your upper chest, the 3 heads of the shoulder, the upper traps, some mid traps, and the heads of the tricep to press it. The bench press involves the same muscles plus all the musculature of the chest, which is a very strong muscle. The squat involves all the musculature of the glutes, the hamstrings, the quads, and the musculature of your hips with some lower back in there and some upper back for tightness. And the deadlift basically works every single muscle of your back from your calves to your upper traps. So the more muscles you can activate at once, the more you can fire up your CNS and your nervous system, and the stronger you are. So that's how the idea of 1, 2, 3, 4 is crafted basically. And I find that for most people, for most lifters, it sort of holds true, meaning that when you hit a 1 plate overhead press, you'll be around a 2 plate bench, you'll be around a 3 plate squat, etc., etc. There are variations depending on your leverages, and there are certain people who just don't do certain lifts, so they don't really count. But I've always found that 1, 2, 3, 4 was quite accurate, and that it actually works for most people. However, 2, 3, 4, 5 to me is where the system starts to show its faults, because it allows for too much of a percentage margin of error between the lifts. The reason why 1, 2, 3, 4 makes sense is because there are only a few hundred pounds on each lift, and also because most people, when they start benching or whatever, they don't start so low. You don't usually, unless you're really unathletic, you don't start squatting just the bar 45 pounds. You might, in the sense that you don't have the technique to perform the squat, but your brute strength on the squat is much higher than that. So when you finally hit 3 plates on the squat, yes, you did progress, but the progress you did is much less than when you hit 4 plates. It makes sense. And the accumulated amount of pounds you had to put to hit the 1, 2, 3, 4 is much lesser, of course, than 2, 3, 4, 5. The issue also is that, or rather the issue of this, because for now it's just not an issue, it's just more poundage, is that the weight you're going to put on the bar on these lifts is going to be widely different depending on the lift, because it's easier to progress on lifts that recruit more muscle. And as I explained before, because the poundage is still relatively low on the 1, 2, 3, 4, the differences are not that high. A lot of people will be able to start overhead pressing with around, I want to say, oh, it's making me dance, come on now. All right. Most people will be able to overhead press with maybe 75 pounds, 80 pounds. So the progress they have to make to reach 135 is not that much. But to go from 135 to 225, it's 90 pounds. And for anyone who does overhead press seriously, they know how tough it is to progress. So for me, that's the first thing that should be obviously wrong about 2, 3, 4, 5. Hitting a 3 plate bench is a completely different ball game than hitting a 2 plate overhead press. It's much easier to hit a 3 plate bench by far. And I've seen tons of videos of people who basically say, oh yeah, if you have a 2-plate overhead press, you have a 3-plate bench. And vice versa, which is completely untrue. When I had my 3-plate bench, I was overhead pressing maybe 150, around that. And I personally, in my 4 years of going to commercial gym, have never ever seen someone overhead press 225. So you can say, oh, it's because they don't focus on the lift. Maybe the press is really not that popular, but the correlation between a 2-plate bench and a 2-plate overhead press and a 3-plate bench is not there. And then you get into the topic of the squat, a 4-plate squat, a 5-plate overhead press. Well, it's in that when you start talking about lower body lifts, you start talking about a different problem. And the problem here is that leverages start playing a huge role. If you have long femurs and usually a longer torso, is going to be much tougher to reach a 4-plate squat. And deadlifts are going to come much easier. If you're a very short lifter with short arms and short legs, a 5-plate deadlift is going to be tough because you don't have the right leverage on the bar to lift that much. You can always go around it, but it will not be a clear correlation of, oh, you hit a 4-plate squat, you get a 5-plate deadlift. When 1, 2, 3, 4 for me was like, everything fell into place. Once I get one lift, I got the others. It all was too perfect, which is why I think 1, 2, 3, 4 is actually, it's a good, method, or rather standard to fix for novice lifters. 1, 2, 3, 4 works, but 2, 3, 4, 5 doesn't. And the people who say that you should be able to transition from 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2, 3, 4, 5 fail to understand the discrepancy that I explained between the lifts. Because of course, your bench is going to progress faster than the overhead press because of the amount of muscle that you can activate on the bench. And then there is the legendary 3, 4, 5, 6, which makes even less sense because the number of people on earth who can overhead press 3 plates strict is like almost non-existent. And all of the ones that I know, natural or not natural, have a 500 plate bench minimum. Most of them have a 550 bench. So it doesn't correlate at all. It stopped making any sense. But to go back to 2, 3, 4, 5 and use my experience, I had a 500-pound deadlift when I was only squatting around 365. So even for me, in my opinion, it didn't correlate. And I already explained to you why overhead press and bench changes, because your leverages start playing too much of a role at that point to be able to create standards based on objective numbers. So that was just a little nerdy talk about numbers, and it's more related to powerlifting than bodybuilding, but thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you've ever hit 1, 2, 3, 4, if you've gotten to 2, 3, 4, 5, and have a good day.